Notice it burns harder on this knot than below. My bad. And that there's unburn all up in there, right there. You can see that the burn is only on the surface of that knot. It is surrounded on all sides by unburned. Right now, center screen, you can see this little protruding branch directly towards us. Don't want to stick my finger in, but right there, that burned hotter than the wood around it, as per the way this plasma fire burns electrically from within. And the burn follows the grain. It curves with the grain inside the wood. We gotta get some better lighting here, because this part is looking pretty cool. Notice again that the burn follows the grain here as well. Inside here, you can notice there's more unburned inside there. On both sides. Here again, an even better example of how the burn follows the grain around a 180-degree curve right there. Get a load of that. Notice the burn unburn here between these two pieces. The unburn in here with the burn right there next to it. And again, the burn following the grain pattern, curving with the grain. This is one of my favorite pieces, I gotta admit. Wavy grain, wavy grain. Wave, wave, wavy grain. Trying to get those colors. You guys saw, there's cool colors in there. You know. A little too much shine on the... Anyway. So that's that piece. Dun, 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 dun. Put your fire lamp in the middle, and it's good to go. Watch the spike spin for a minute, and hopefully I can do it without knocking it over. See the grains? Are you checking the grains? Anyway, I'm probably more impressed with the grains than everyone else, but I think they're cool. There's some of the dark red grains in the middle. This one's the unicorn. That's the eye. That's the horn. That's the mane. And this is all actually just one big knot, and that's why it burns so much harder here than everywhere else around it. This is where another tree was protruding right through here, and as you can see, it's another hollowed out tree. Here's the back side, there's the middle, there's the horn. Here's a good example of how it burns hotter on the knot right in the center screen. Again right here and here, hotter on the knot. On all those little knots, everywhere there's a little black dot was actually a knot where there's denser wood. More down here. Burns harder on the knots, and the burn line curves with the grain of the wood. And unevenly, you can see a burned streak right here with the unburned streak right next to it. Turn her back around. So I'm going to put it in the sun, and we'll take a closer look at some of these spots like here where you can see the unburned wood right there on the inside, and this is a good example of all three. The burn follows the grain. It burns hotter on the knots on the outside. Here's another good example of how the burn follows the grain, right here. and begin right here. Got some holes under there for light to squeak out for when you put the flaming lamp in there. It's pretty slick. Here's another good example of how the burn follows the grain right here. And the little black bumps on the bottom left, those are all knots. Here you can see a larger version of how the burn follows the grain of the tree. The grain of the tree kind of grew a curve right there and went down, and then in and around. And we watched that part. We looked where it went in and around, and then on down. And it continues going up here. That's just one long burn line we've just followed that went through the entire grain. Kind of formed a line. Curvy line, but still a line. And the curves of the line followed the grain. Here's some more of that cool deep texture grain. Anyway, over here you can see another spot where burn line follows grain line. So that's my unicorn. She's in the runner-up for the favorite position. I think we already covered that, but there's a bunch of knots that are black. Pretty sure we already covered that. Where they burn harder than the wood around them. All right. One last thing before we go. She wanted me to show you her unburned spot. She's real proud of it. Oh, and the spot in the main. I don't know if we covered that very close. But up here in the main is a really good spot to see where the burn follows the curvature and the lines of the grain. You can see that unburned streak in there. Speaking of unburned, this little spot right here, right in the middle of a bunch of highly burned wood. Bit of a mystery. Bit of a mystery. Unicorn. You see it? You see it. You see the unicorn. I hope. Human hand reaching up to grab you. Rah. Right? No, come back. It's like reaching up out of the ground. It's like a zombie hand reaching up out of the ground. Brains. Brains. Okay. Enough fooling around. It does kind of look like a hand though. And the arm part under here even has the radius and the ulna. There's like a bone going here and a bone going here that come together right at the elbow, just like a radius and an ulna. But this one gives a good example of, quit fooling around here for a minute. You can see how it burned hotter on this knot, that it burned only on the inside and left a burn line between burn and unburn right here and right here, going all the way around between the inner wood and the outer wood. It's completely burnt on the inside, hollowed out. There's another good example of how it burns hotter on the knot right there. And another one up here. And more examples here. About 5 or 6 examples right there. 2 on the upper left, 2 on the lower right. You see all the little black dots? Those are protrusions where another branch was going to come out. And that's what a knot is essentially on a tree, is where it's going to create another branch. And because of those core fibers that go deeper into the center of the tree, I believe, that's why those actually have more electricity going to them. I think we pointed out those. Here's another great example. All of these that you see right here are sticking out. These here sticking out. You can see the little black tips of all of them, including these little ones here and these little ones here. Each one of them has a tiny, tiny black spot that's burned, more so than the wood around it. Likewise with these over here. These show it even better. All the little black spots. Each one of those represents like a wire running into the center of the tree that conducted the electricity out to the surface in a more intense way than the surrounding wood around it. Let's hear it one more time for the tree with the laser strikes. Cha-cha-cha. Notice the breaks in the line. Right here and right here. So you notice how there's no burning in the roots where I cut this off. And it burned everything to a spike. And burned the middle. Notice how close this is right here, this hardcore burn that it did right in the center. Notice how close that is to all of the wood surrounding it. Touching unburned wood all around. So you can see it burned them all to spikes. This burned hotter than anything else surrounding it. Like maybe there was a bigger piece down here that sizzled all the way down to nothing. And you can see the burn line stops right here. Now we'll go ahead and turn this piece around. And this is what it looks like from the other side. It had a slight reaction with the lacquer that I put to it, but the point is this centerpiece and the way in which it burned all of its limbs. From the tip down, but also from the center out. And this fire just behaves in mysterious ways that we're just beginning to figure out. Oops, that sucked. That's that. This piece is also a hollowed out tree. Unburnt on the outside in certain areas. Highly burnt in other areas, but hollowed out in the center. Unburned clear up here on the top of this. Here it does a corkscrew where it leaves it unburned right here. So because it burned on the inside and the inner side does this corkscrew, loops back around the underside and burns all the way around, that's exactly what happened. It burned the underside around that corkscrew right there on down into the inside. Burnt the underside, corkscrews back around here to the inside. Left a bit of a unburned spot right here where you can get some of that cool color and texture. That's a good spot to notice here. The tip of this, you can see how the burn follows the grain, center screen, going up through here. Now center screen, you can see the tip of a stick that comes out and is burnt only on the tip. In the same fashion that many of these others are. You can see the clear line of difference between the burn and unburn pattern. I'm also looking at the deep color of the grain. There we go. The gold, it's almost like there's a metallic inside the wood that you can see right there. And there was metallic coming off of the black when I would scrub these off and clean them. The black had a metallic speckled flake running all through it as it would run down the piece that I'm cleaning. And you can see almost a metallic flake in there in the grain. Again, over here you can see that the grain, or the burn pattern follows the grain. And as for educational purposes, I think that about wraps it up with this one. You can also see that it burned more on the knot right here and on the tip of the branch that was protruding, along with the burn pattern that follows the grain, as with always. This one is an interesting character. You can see all the holes that you can see through as you go around it. It's the piece that I call the Keebler Holocaust. You can see right down in it, it was burnt on the inside, top to bottom. And then some of the interesting features are right here where a branch once protruded, you can see where the burning stopped, where that branch burned from the inside out, but stopped burning at this point around the edge where it meets the inside. You can see that perfect edge where inside is burned, but right here on the lip it burned a perfect edge all the way around, burning that branch from the inside out, leaving this perfect line around the spot where the branch once was. This perfect line of burn, unburn. This hole has a very similar feature around the edge. You can see the clear line between burn and unburn right there.